How you doing? My name is Anthony Sarcone. I'm the union president and chapter chair of the LMS unit. We put together a note we'd like to read to you guys today. Dear members of the board, we are writing to express our deep concern regarding the latest change to our work schedule. This marks the 5th adjustment in just 2 years. As line workers, we perform some of the most physically demanding and high-risk work in the utility industry. Consistency and stability in our schedules are essential, not just for operational efficiency, but for safety, focus, and for peace of mind. These frequent shifts create real turmoil at home. Many of us are now left scrambling to find childcare with no notice, with schedules that no longer align with schools, partners, or essential appointments. Our families are suffering, and we are being forced to adapt to changes we didn't ask for and had no voice in shaping. This is not just a matter of convenience, it's a matter of livelihood and well-being, which we were cited reasons for the shift to the 410 schedule in the first place. Without adequate time or input, these decisions leave us struggling to manage responsibilities at home while continuing to meet the high expectations of the job. This lack of consistency is wearing down the workforce that remains committed, skilled, and proud of the work that we do. It is important to note that under the current 410 schedule, our department played a key role in RMLD being awarded the Excellence in Reliability, reflecting a 97% reliability rate. This recognition did not happen by chance. It is a direct result of stability, structure, and commitment of the line department under a schedule that worked. Disrupting the system risks undoing progress that directly benefits our ratepayers in our community. Additionally, we are still working without a signed contract to implement a significant change in working conditions while we are in bid negotiations undermines the spirit of fair and respectful bargaining. These actions contribute to a sense that decisions are being made without collaboration and that our voices are not being heard. We respectfully ask that any change to our schedule be delayed until a new contract is in place and employees have had time to adjust. We are committed to doing our jobs to the highest standard and continuing to serve the community with reliability and professionalism. We ask only for the same consideration in return. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for the comment. Any other public comment? Okay. All right, so we will move on to the next session, liaisons. Do we have any liaisons on the line? No. No. Okay. All right. So committee updates, the MLCA. I think we're overlapping with the MLCA meeting as we speak, and the Killam School Building Committee. Do you?
Yeah, I can report on both of those. In order of the schedule, I'll comment on MLCA, which is the Massachusetts Light Commissioners Association, the newly formed group. We now have a slate of officers, which are the elected administrators. I'm vice chair. There is a meeting tonight on long-term battery storage. Greg's familiar with that and probably would have spoken at the meeting had we not conflicted with our schedules. What I will do going forward is we have a list of dates going forward that MLCA would like to meet. I'll get those to Mrs. Oliver so that she can plug those into the schedule so we don't conflict. We encourage the CAB members to be a part of this group because they're unique in the MLP sector as a group, and so being aware of current policies and things that are going on certainly is in your interest as well as RMLD's. One of the things that the MLCA is trying to do is they're trying to connect up with the MMA, the Massachusetts Municipal Association, which is the organization which municipal mayors, administrators plug into, and be a subgroup to that. That'll give us a little bit of administrative structure, website access, mailing list, and certain capabilities. That discussion is ongoing, but really won't change who we are or what we do. It's just an umbrella that we'll probably sit in under. So a lot of good things are happening, and I'll keep the group informed as to what that is, but that's what's going on right now on that. Any questions on the MLCA? Okay. Killam's and the recount elections or vote about funding that within Reading passed. The Killam School passed overwhelmingly, and the recalc, the senior center passed with a closer margin, but it did pass. So we have two new building projects in Reading, both of which are all electric buildings, both of which will incorporate some solar on the roof. Coming up, there is going to be, but they are two very separate things on very different programs. And the Killam School is going to be the lead because they are driven by funding at the state, and so that's going to be the driver on this. The Sustainability Working Group is looking to have two more meetings as the design team gets into the process of designing those buildings. The dates are not set. They sent out a doodle poll to try to figure out when the most is, but the first topic will be to review and provide feedback on the menu of energy conservation measures that they're planning to incorporate into the building. And then the second topic will be review initial energy modeling results of those energy conservation measures. So I'll be there as the board representative and encourage Megan send a staff person there to be a part of that. Now that it's going to be a funded project, these things will get a lot more serious, a lot faster. This does create an opportunity for us to look at these two sites because they're so close in geography as a broader project and not as two or three separate pieces. We now really have access to quite a lot of parking lot area, land area that we can begin to look at as how much capacity might be done there. So whatever the school doesn't adopt as energy, solar energy behind the meter, we might want to think about what we can do in front of the meter. So I think we should look at both of those sites, stay in touch with both of those projects, because we'll be ripping up that area anyways. We'll be putting in new facilities. So
space. Space.
So it's we should look at as available area for us going forward. So with that, that's the update from me.
Thank you.
I have a quick question about back to the MLCA.
Mhm.
Can you talk just a little bit more about, do we have a relationship other than your representation there? Is there any kind of interaction between them and this board or?
The logic behind the MLCA is that there are 41 municipal light districts and each have between 3 and 5 board members. And the problem is they're dealing with complex issues and probably don't come from the utility infrastructure themselves. So each new person that's elected to the board, as you may relate to very closely, what's my job? How do I figure this out? And so unfortunately, the people you can't talk to are the people on your own board because of meeting laws. So this organization is just a self-formed interest by municipal light commissioners that, hey, we need to talk to each other about what broad policy is, what state policy is, what we bring back to our boards. And while we do monitor not talking about any one municipal light district's policies per se, we do touch on a lot of things that are going on at DOER, DEP, whatever, in terms of the things that are coming up. So that when we come back to this, like long-term battery storage and a lot of different cool technology stuff. So when we come back to our own boards, we come as an informed person and can help understand and make a decision.
Great.
So yeah, so as far as the relationship to this, it's each of us can join, each of us can participate. It's pretty much meets online. We're going to try to meet in person at the NEPA in August. Haven't found quite a space yet for that. Yes, that they can be, if you can't get to one.
Probably 6 months into it.
Yeah, just about.
Into the formation.
Into the
of the
formation.
association?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So So that's what it is. And certainly, glad to talk to you more
Yeah,
about that.
great.
But
Thank
it's
you.
a resource for us as commissioners.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So we're gonna skip a couple of the things because we don't have the cab forum here at this very moment. So I'm gonna pause on the meeting minutes and move to the power supply certificate update. Megan?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
We could do our minutes though, right? Do not want to.
Typically, I thought the cab has to approve first and then.
Oh, because it's the same minute, isn't it?
It's joint, yeah.
The same minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Check the law on
No, no, no,
that,
no, good,
I think we'll just.
Yeah,
hold and-
agreed.
Sure. Good evening. I'm gonna talk about power supply cost and non-carbon certificates and the energy efficiency and electrification. So the power supply cost update. This is trying to reestablish the routine with the board meeting before, where every quarter there's an update on power supply. So you'll be seeing these charts a lot going forward.
But
In
better
fact,
format.
we will have each chart in each slide so you can see. So basically, this is not surprising. We are in at the end of May now, but our accounting is finalized by March for March. So April and May are still not finalized. So but you can already see the trend where the dark lines on the chart on the left, those are the demand, our demand forecast and actual demand. And you can see this year's demand is really not changing that much from last year. However, the cost is the purple line over the red line. So the cost has gone up, which we have been saying since last fall when we were doing the budget. So this is consistent. And then the three charts on the right is a little too small. I'm sorry. But the kind of the story of that is most of the changes are from the energy cost and transmission cost. Capacity cost has been pretty stable. The capacity cost is determined 3 years ahead of time. So the past couple of years, it has been around the same price. So that's just kind of the overall update on the cost. And then, as you already know, to manage the energy cost piece of it, we mostly use the PPAs, and we did have lengthy discussions last year about, how much PPAs we should do, and then how much, less hedging or more hedging we should do. And also this year, because of the increase of price we see at the beginning of the year, we actually spend time looking at like options in the summer because we're often short in summer. So we are in constant discussion with our suppliers to maybe do a little bit more hedging, but the spread of the price was not enough for us to actually take that action. So that's on the energy side. And on the capacity and transmission price cost side, we continue to enhance our demand response programs, continue to try to develop in-territory energy storage, solar projects to help lower cost. And you all know, we just kind of commissioned the 10 megawatt battery in North Reading. So that's for power supply cost. And
So what is the key takeaway from a decision process here? For, just as a strategy, what is it that is
Yeah,
going to guide based on this information? What is the decision that RMLD from an operations perspective is taking?
just like what I just said, for the energy costs, we're continuing to monitor our PPAs, our hedging positions, and on the transmission capacity costs, we're continuing to do demand response and continue to build assets to kind of lower our peak demand.
So that means more demand response.
Yes.
That's
How-
part of it.
How much of the kind of summer at this point is contracted?
With different estimates, I think we are about 20,000 megawatt hour. That's the kind of
600%.
kind of short. But it depends, like how hot it's gonna be,
Mhm.
that will decide. Like if you see the is it here, right? The load in July last year was really high. It kind of really jumped up.
2,000.
high.
Mhm.
So our forecast right now is kind of following what happened last year, but we never know.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, thanks for that. The battery, I don't know if we saw the PPA for that, but can you talk a little bit about what is that PPA between us and the private battery that you just unveiled? Or is it even called a PPA, whatever?
sort of.
Yes,
How-
energy services.
It's energy service.
Okay.
contract. So we would pay for a certain amount each month. And then we will work together to try to really hit the peaks,
Mhm.
each transmission peak each month, and then also the capacity peak of the year. And then we will share the savings.
I see. So you tell them, release,
They
Or-
they are the operator of the battery, so most of the time they will tell us how they're scheduling it. But we are in discussion with them, like, okay, it's 20 megawatt hours. How are we going to stagger the discharge
I
so that
see.
we can actually hit the peak and also maximize the megawatt hours that
Oh,
we
I see.
hit in
So,
that hour.
so the agreement is that we get 20 megawatt hours out of the battery and you work with them on when the 20 megawatt hours is that we get the power. Is that,
We
is
know
that
we
it?
will discharge back to the system. That means we lower our demand.
Correct, I
In
get
that
it.
hour.
Yeah, so it depends upon each individual month. And so we're actually so they have the responsibility to discharge. And because it's a shared savings, they're motivated to do it as optimally as they can.
Right.
The way the contract's written is that if over a period of time they fail to do that, then we'll take responsibility to do the charge and discharge. Again, it's a second generation of what we learned from the original
From the
battery
one
system,
on Station 3.
right? And then the subsequent one, that we'll do at Station 3 is yet a further evolution of the business model.
Okay.
So we keep learning and making it better.
Right. And so why was this one put privately and not at Station 3? This one, the one that you just opened,
This
what?
one is connected to station.
But it's on private, it's not on our property.
It's not on our property, right? There'll be a different system that'll go on to the next system will go on to our property at Station 3.
So,
And then there's two more planned after that will go also on our properties.
Who exactly owns it?
here's,
Kearsarge is well, technically the bank owns it, but Kearsarge is the owner operator of that particular system. The NextEra is the owner operator of the first system. And Citizens will be the owner operator of the next system. So I gotta keep running. Go ahead.
So Kearsarge is the company we have this agreement, the contract with.
Yes.
All right.
There's another company that controls how the
Yeah.
the
Yep.
energy is
Kearsarge
managed,
has
right?
a vendor, it's called CES,
CES, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
they're based out of Philadelphia.
And so how do we interact with them? Do we interact with CES or with Kearsarge?
They directly email us when they see in their forecast, there's a peak, and then they tell us how they are doing.
So we deal directly with CES because, I mean, they're sitting on the knob, right? So CES controls the knob.
Yes,
And we have override responsibility on that.
yes.
And our responsibility is to make sure the network is always reliable, first and foremost, back to what you heard from the line group. And then secondarily, right, the next item of our mission is low cost. So the control room, again, we staff the control room 24/7 and they have final oversight. But we deferred to CES on behalf of Kearsarge to discharge that battery as often as possible.
Certificate update, you might have seen a version of this chart before. Basically, we're trying to update you on, because maybe this was explained before, there's always a 6-month delay in finalizing the transaction of certificates. So this chart is trying to kind of paint an overall picture of last year, how many we acquired and how many we already retired, like it's already in the NEPOOL GIS database, and how many more we still need to do. I think the final transaction will be done by the end of this week. And then the rest is what we can sell. The revenue can offset our power supply cost. So I don't think I need to say more about this unless you have any questions.
The vertical line is dollars,
No, those are the number of certificates.
or number of certificates.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, in this case, yeah, you're right. Yeah, we put the- yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They're not equal in dollars, right? They're not equal in dollars.
When we sell it, no, but when we retire, it's the same one. That's why we sell the highest value certificates when we can. Right. I think this is a request from the board about, energy efficiency program budget and spending. So I looked at all past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. As you can see, so the chart is showing the balance of how much we collected from the EEC, the charge, and how much we spent in the program on the customer rebate programs. And almost every single year we were short. 2024, we were a little along just because, some of the rebate programs were delayed. And also by the end of the year, we got kind of retired a lot of the appliance rebates. So, it kind of the processing of rebates, this is the actual spending. So a lot of them in between in transition. So that's why you see a little balance. However, in terms of the cash reserve, we do have more than what the chart shows. As I said, kind of included here on the second bullet, we moved $2.5 million from the general operating fund to the EEC fund in 2021. So we'll always have that. We'll always have that cushion. We want to keep that cushion there. And for this year, we expect to have, a lot of ramp up on the heat pump and weatherization rebates. And we expect more solar rebates. And I can show you in the next chart, that's where the most spending. So the chart on the left is basically the spending, kind of the composition of spending. The highest dollar amount is spent on heat pump rebate, weatherization, and solar. And then the chart on the right, it shows the number of rebates. And you can see for last year, 35% is on appliances. So all these little small rebates that still needs to go through the entire rebate process takes a lot of staff time. Also, the yard equipment and appliances, that's like over 60%. So that's, part of the reason we want to kind of restructure the rebate program so to focus most of our both cash, the rebate and the staff time on more important rebate. Last year, we issued over 1,000 rebates. So any questions on this? I think this is the last one.
So the 2025 is tracking along the same lines as 24?
The composition will change. The yard equipment is all gone.
Right.
Appliances mostly gone. So we'll see more heat pump, weatherization, solar, and EV charger. Oh, do you mean high, the dollar value or?
That's helpful from a kind of individual application standpoint, but yeah, dollar wise, are we seeing consistency?
Dollar wise, well, if we have more on our sales, then we get more.
No, in terms of the rebates, we're gonna.
The rebates, the volume of how much money we've handed out in rebates so far this year.
We'll probably end up writing more checks.
Oh, I see. I think a few hundred so far.
But we'll probably end up writing more checks this year in rebates than we did last year.
Okay.
But because we just rolled out the new heat pump program, and also we require weatherization, that's a longer timeline in completing the project. So we may not spend as much as last year. I don't know at this point. So we rolled it out in March. We still haven't seen the very first new program participant yet, but still kind of clearing the rebates for the applications from last year.
And-
Just maybe one more point, I don't want to forget about the rate. So we raised in 2022 and then again 2024. I think very likely 2026 we will have to raise it again. But we'll let you know.
When, can you tell me the year-end balances? What's the schedule throughout the year of disbursements? Does that mostly come in the fall? Is that why you're saying you're going to write more checks this year?
Throughout the year. Yeah, every month we issue checks.
Okay, and it's been steady all the way through.
It depends. Sometimes like for the solar project, sometimes it takes 6 months for them to complete.
No.
Yeah, I just
No
wondered if
seasonality, right?
there's no seasonality.
And
in
there was a
in the
yard towards
disbursements.
springtime, but that's a small The real driver is heat pumps. And they tend to be like
Throughout the year, so people do it.
Just like right before the winter.
Yeah.
Think about heating. Or right before the summer.
AC.
And so you'll spend, I mean, if you get the request, you'll overspend your fund to supply that rebate and then make it up in later years. Is there an accounting?
Yes, that's,
Detail.
yeah.
So this is and so the purpose of the 2.5 million was basically to put a boundary on that. Yeah, to put a buffer on that so that you can always stay positive on that expense line.
We also got some, little bit of grant, very small, like a few $100,000.
Okay.
A few years ago.
Can I ask one more question? Just about program design. I know we've made some good changes, but I was looking at some programs at different MLPs and it's really all over the map what people are doing. And I just wonder why is that? I mean, I think Wakefield gives 800 a kilowatt for solar. We give 600. Some give less than 600. Some do give you something for insulation, even without a heat pump. We don't do that. We do it with the heat pumps. So I just don't know. And there's other things that are just all over the map. Like, why is that? And who is the person that says this is the way? Is there not any best practice out there
Do you
for
want
MLPs?
policy response?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Like,
Because MLPs are not regulated.
correct,
So there's no standard.
correct. There isn't. They're not regulated. None of this has to be done. I get that. But then still, I would think there'd be some kind of like, here's the best practice, even though you don't have to do it at all.
So on that note, like in the heat pump program, so back in 2020 and 2021, we were one of the early heat pump programs, and a lot of the other ones looked at us and learned how we did it. Sure, things we did right and things we did wrong. In terms of the processing, there is a bit of a standardization in terms of how it gets processed. So, the dollar amounts are different.
Right.
Each MLP has a different constituency in terms of the size and the mix. I know the Norwood guys have a higher incentive on their heat pumps because they don't have a lot of adoption because the nature of their communities they're a different level and they're not really in a position to afford the heat pumps, so they do more stuff. We, as you know, we played around with the rebate amount on the solar side.
Right.
When the state got out of it, because the state said it doesn't make economic sense, we continued because we were trying to increase the adoption of residential solar. We moved it up to 1,200.
Right.
We kept that for 2 years. It didn't really change the mix, so we reduced it back down. So anyways, everybody's still learning. There's a lot of discussion amongst the different MLPs, amongst the general managers and the individual groups in terms of what they do. We're all still learning in terms of what works for our particular area. At some point in time, there might be some normalization, but it's still early in the game. We had yard tools. We were the first guys to do it. People followed us and then we dropped it. So they dropped it. Everybody's dropped the lighting programs at this point in time. So we're all learning together.
How does our rate compare with the mass save rate,
What
the
rate?
EEC rate?
Oh.
Much less.
So so it's roughly 3.5 cents when you add it all together, compared to our 0.5 cent.
Okay, so
A
massive
massive
is 3.5.
Massive
So
difference.
mass save, at the state level, it's a $4 billion program.
Yeah.
We are $3 million.
Yeah, I know, no, but I'm just thinking of the rate, yeah.
Massively different. There's pressure to reduce that mass save rate at the state level for the IOUs.
Yeah.
It's not a trivial number.
Is the mass rate applied only to the IOUs? None of the municipal
Yeah.
districts have that?
We get to set our own. We have a different program. So and none of the MLPs participate in the mass save program. We do try and learn what they do and, there's sharing back and forth. But we don't charge as much and we don't write as many rebate checks as a result.
Well, different or overlap is our customers, if they are served by National Grid by gas, then they also pay a EEC charge to National Grid on gas. They pay us the EEC on the electricity side.
I
But
see.
then generally, National Grid's rebates are higher, but their process is more cumbersome based on what the customers told us, but they have a choice. So in our rebate, if you choose National Grid, then you cannot get out, you cannot double dip. But a lot of customers tell us they prefer to work with us, even though maybe the rebate level is a little lower. But it
But
depends.
in Reading, you have national, I guess I looked in all 4 towns. gas is from National Grid, right?
Correct. In our
Gas,
territory,
gas is National Grid.
natural gas from National Grid.
And, electricity is RMLD.
Goes-
So, if someone's doing weatherization, they can get massive monies for that. And so the question here is that, what is the so you said that you can get one of the two because you get an incentive from mass save for weatherization. And for heat pumps, how would that work?
So if they got the weatherization rebate from National Grid already, if they already did it, and then that's done, right? When they provide the verification, like supporting documentation that this is all done, then we can just provide the heat pump rebate for them.
Okay.
It's spelled out in our program. But they cannot get a heat pump rebate from National Grid and then ask us to match the rest.
Right.
That's not gonna happen.
Since we don't have the audit report, we can spend a couple more minutes on this, but if you mind, because that's an interesting point of what you're talking about is the Mass Save program, because it's so well-funded and it's so generous. I think I heard you say last time, half of our customers get National Grid,
Have natural gas
natural gas, right? So they
from grid.
from grid, and it means that they can get the better stuff that we also would benefit from if they use the Mass Save program. We also get the benefits of the
Efficiency.
the efficiency benefits accrue to us as well. And the load growth, because they were at my house and they saw the gas furnaces, they're offering to put in heat pump furnaces. I'm like, you guys just incentivized this 5 years ago. I got brand new pair of gas furnaces from them. And the guy is in there 6 months ago offering me incentives for a heat pump furnace. Then you don't have to pay for it. So what I'm getting at is I see on some of these other MLP websites, first thing they do is say, if you have National Grid, you're eligible for Massive, go there first and work that system all the way before you come to us.
Yeah, we
It's
work
better.
with our vendor,
For everybody.
Bold, that's what
Yeah,
they,
but-
so Bold is our
Everything.
first gate.
Yeah.
Like all the consultation, free
Good,
consultation
okay.
is done through them, that's
Yeah.
the first thing they probably.
So if somebody's calling for our stuff, the first thing is they check is, are you on Mass Saves? And if they are, go there first and then come back to us. Okay, good. That's what should happen.
Those are some things we learned early on,
Right.
Dave. And that program was 2 years ago when Mass saved, when they made the change to say it would apply to natural gas customers as well. Right. That was a massive change.
Right.
It had a lot of implications for many MLPs.
Okay, so it's good to know that when they call, that's the first question. It's
One of
not, okay, it's not that clear on the website that their people are getting directed that way, but if they're hearing it on the phone call, it's that.
Right, because we also want to have that balance of not pushing our customers away to say they come to us for rebate, we say, oh, go get someone else. So.
But then you don't have to spend the money though, and you still get the benefit of the low growth. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, the clean heat standard, then we don't get to claim the clean.
Oh, I see.
Heat standard credit.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks, Megan. Okay, next topic,
Go back to minutes or?
Yeah. Jason, is that-
sure, we can do that.
So do we want to, can we get a motion from?
Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board approve the January 29th, 2025 and February 26th, 2025 open session meeting minutes as presented on the recommendation of the General Manager and the Board Secretary.
Second.
Any comments?
No.
All right, all good?
Yep.
All right, so all in favor?
You want to read the motion?
Sure. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve the January 29, February 12th, and February 26th open session meeting minutes as presented on the recommendation of the General Manager and Board Secretary, which I thought I was the Board Secretary.
Yeah, second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the minute?
I would simply say, I guess I acted as board secretary
that's fine.
and having read the minutes prior to this meeting.
Okay,
and
great.
Reported back to the chair.
Good.
On those minutes.
Sounds good.
Ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, operations update.
There's a slide.
Okay, this first slide is something new we started doing this year. Safety performance, that's this year versus last year. So when you see red, that's a negative trend, yellow is a stable trend, could go positive or negative, and green's a positive trend. So the first category in the top left is motor vehicle incidents. Last year we finished with 12. This year we're doing pretty good through the year so far. We're at 4, so that's in the green. And motor vehicle incidents could be anything involved in a motor vehicle. It could be actual a collision or damage to a motor vehicle on a job site. So the one below that is personal injuries. So right now we're in the red. We had 3 total last year. We're already at 3 this year. Personal injuries basically is someone was hurt on the job and they sought medical attention. The
What-
top.
Sorry, can I ask a question about
Oh, yeah,
that? So,
sorry.
what are the biggest issues there? Like what are the causes of
It could be a sprain, like someone slip and fall in the ice. Someone hurt their wrist. Another one, someone slipped and fell and just like landed real hard in the ice, so they got checked out.
Okay, so it's not necessarily like interaction with equipment or anything. It's being kind of out in the elements.
Yeah, one was walking the parking lot. Another one was actually moving a piece of equipment, but it was icy. Yeah, so I guess a combination. Like sometimes a job site, or it could be just in the parking lot. And then the top right is an injury. So that was basically someone reported that they hurt themselves at work, but they didn't seek medical attention. And then on the bottom right, so that was in the yellow because we had 1 last year, 1 this year. Long-term injuries, we had 4 last year. We were in the red. So this year we're turning in a good direction. We only have 1 so far this year. And then it's a new category, near miss, good catch. So basically something happens at the job site, it had the potential to cause, serious injury or harm. And so it's something that we're trying to get people to talk about and just bring awareness to the overall crew. Something happened on their job sites, they relay that information so everybody hears it. So it's not a trap of somebody else later on down the road that they're aware something could possibly happen like that. So.
Yeah, I want to support your reporting on the near miss, good catch. And, if you don't have that process and you don't support members for reporting through that process, then you get into these other things which hurt people. So yeah, I don't see that as a positive or negative. That's just good reporting out and I'm glad you, even though it's an increase over last year, you show it as
No,
green.
we didn't track it last year.
Because it's, I know, but I don't see it as a negative trend. I see it as a good feature that you are looking at the job site, you're trying to define obstacles or traps or issues and report it out before someone gets hurt. So I consider that a positive thing. And that making sure that no one does get hurt either at that moment or in accounting a situation like it down the road. So that's a good thing.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Is that incentivized? Like you guys fill out a card and then
No, basically, the morning meeting, someone will bring it up and then, so all the crew leaders talk about it and they relay the information to their crews. Yeah, the supervisor will report to me that something came up and something they talked about in the morning that came up one of the job sites. So they kind of pass that information around.
that I know, when I was on cruise that, you fill out a good catch card, and then they draw them in a box, and they draw them like once a month, get a gift certificate to Dunkin' Donuts or something, I didn't know if that would be maybe, get more interaction.
Yeah. No, we're trying, no, not always easy getting them, so.
Right, no.
Mike, just just a few questions. Who do we report this information to?
Which information?
This information.
Because
The reason I ask is I used to work at a large company and there were certain things that get OSHA reportable. So just want to understand, where does this get reported? What gets reported to OSHA?
So that it's the injury, anything involving an injury that they sought medical attention, that goes to Maya. So was it Mass Institute?
So it's a state agency?
Yes. Yeah, because in case of the workers' comp claim.
And nothing goes to OSHA?
No, even in the regular industry, it doesn't really go to OSHA, it gets tracked as OSHA recordable.
I mean, OSHA
Like the private
records
industry.
are serious stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, usually a personal injury with medical attention.
Yeah, medical attention, so.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so my question was, as a normal basis, it gets reported to management. And then. it
Into the
gets
safety committee, more
The
important.
safety committee,
Yeah, we have a safety committee that
and then,
Process.
and then is there like a state, because there's a state and a federal perspective, right? So what needs to be reported to the state?
Maya is the state
Okay, how do you spell it? I'm sorry,
IIA.
MIIA.
We also use this as part of our APPA submissions, which is our RP3 submissions, which is that diamond award piece.
Yeah.
Safety is a key piece of it. And as you heard from the line crew
Right.
earlier, safety is our first and foremost, not just for the line crew, but for everybody in the organization and the public. So that's first and foremost. That's kind of like the foundational piece. And the rest of the mission is reliable, low cost, non-carbon. So this is, you know, as we work to put more metrics in place, go back to one of the goals that we're trying to work through this year. Safety is the first one.
So of all of these categories, what gets reported to Maya?
I have to,
It'd be a personal injuries.
Personal injury.
That sought medical attention, yeah.
Okay,
Because it is a workman comps claim.
yeah. So the other stuff is more for internal performance.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for tracking. We talked, like I said, we talked about it in the monthly. safety
Yeah, no,
meeting.
no, thank you. This is important. That's it, just.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next is the liability. So this year for Sadie, we finished last year with 23.24 minutes. Right now we're tracking at 9.37 minutes. And for safety, last year we finished with 0.27 incidents, and right now we're tracking at 0.08. So we're tracking positively in both of those.
If you were to just look at the same time period last year, but this year, are we also lower in both of those?
Yeah, the only thing that's you know, it's not really it's throughout the year. So every time we have an outage, a little bit gets added to each item. So that's why, yeah. So
Oh, so
right now, you know, we are tracking in a good direction, but you know, you could have a bad month where things could shoot up a little bit. So it can go up and down a little bit through the year.
okay now.
Yeah.
And that's part of the maintenance. That's why you try and prevent.
Were the uptakes in 23 and 24 over the previous years, were those just mostly weather related, a few big storms?
Yeah, especially last year. I mean, we started off, I think, like January, especially had a few storms, like probably like I think January there was like a couple of 1 to 2 day storms.
Anyway, 2024 was.
Is the outage information distributed, divided by geography or by town? Is there,
It'll
That
report,
breakdown?
this is a federal program.
Yeah.
It is.
Right now, this is the whole area, but I mean, I guess it could track maybe extract it that way.
all right,
These
but-
are industry metrics.
But it's a formula, so you have how many customers per
which,
town.
which,
stuff
which
like
is good, and congratulations to the team for being below average. I guess as we get through the building projects that we have, what we do for backup power is a point of discussion.
Hmm.
So I will want to look at what we have for Reading, particularly along Havel Street. So just my request, not for outside of the meeting, I'd get a hold of a report or break out that information. I'd like to look at that.
Take management. So that's some of the work that Linda's doing as well.
Yeah, just
That's-
break out.
But
There's other factors that come into that, and as you remember, we'll see them in the next, so
I believe the APA reliability tracker, you can even break it down by feeder. You upload all of your outage information and then you can sort it a bunch of different ways.
create this next, so he's right, this next slide, some of the sources of errors. too.
Yeah.
And the reason why I mention that is treat this as a piece. And as you know, we continue to get better and better in Reading, but Reading has the most challenge in
You flip this one. Go.
in terms of tree management. Or vegetation management as we.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, this chart just shows, the related, causes of outages. Broke down that pie chart, weather was 30%, equipment 32%, wildlife 19%, trees 16%, and vehicles, 3%.
Like, what are, when you say equipment outages, what?
Equipment failure, like a transformer replacement, like a transformer fails.
Is it primarily transformers?
Could be a transformer, could be a fuse that, could be, a tied fuse that's failed, like they didn't find
I'm
any
asking
animal.
more from the perspective of like, how do we control this? Because I mean, we got a transformer replacement program.
We have a very active transformer replacement program.
So
Yeah.
We started feeder patrol. Again, we keep, the goal right now is, so we've continued to invest in maintenance of the network, but we're also trying to move ourselves into a more preventive maintenance. So we're trying to anticipate where the problems are gonna be. You'll see, Peter Price will bring up a program that we're looking at right now, which is a combination of infrared. So part of our feeder analysis, not just the visual stuff, when the crews are out in the field, they look at things. When the engineers are out in the field, they look at things, but we're trying to do some automated technologies as well. We do in the hot summer days, we currently have infrared, but that's a single point shoot thing. We're gonna do some drive-by stuff and start experimenting with that later on this year as well. So
You
again, the
test the oil and stuff in the components
yes, we do.
for gas.
Yep.
In the station, not showing the, like distribution and like on the pole, stuff like that.
Yeah, in substations, we do call it DGA analysis, dissolved gas analysis. We send it out to a lab. There's always gonna be gases inside your transformers, but they look at the percentages between the gases and they know if there's a problem. So we do that on a yearly basis, all our substation equipment.
And I assume there's some industry standards, right? When there's certain amount of dissolved gas, that
Yep.
means there's been
Yep,
certain.
the
amount of
lab goes,
episodes
you know, we send our stuff to Doble Engineering,
and-
and they, you know, have scientists that look at all these reports, and again, like they said, they look at the percentage differences in the gases, and they can identify issues.
That's pretty cool. How, one other question is, how do you distinguish between weather and trees?
Generally, weather was probably, classified as weather, because it might have been like windy conditions, but, when they went out and found the problem, they couldn't identify the actual source. It could have been like a small branch somewhere. They drove down the road, probably didn't notice, couldn't, there might have been several branches on the ground, but, you know, nothing that really stood out that big.
Sort of ambiguous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it was probably weather-related night where it was wind or, you know, heavy wind or something like that. But they didn't have an actual, like a tree branch laying across the phase and something like that where they cleared.
Or
Yeah, or animal issue or something like that. They didn't see a dead squirrel or anything like that.
So it's more wind than rain, but probably
Yeah,
They
they weren't able to pinpoint exactly what caused it. They were, you know, responding to a trouble call and, you know, restored it, but when they patrolled it, they didn't find exactly what the issue was. They couldn't find anything, so.
and the
But
next
it,
change.
generally, like, it was a weather-related night, though.
Mhm.
Responded.
Remember last year, we looked at the 2024 summary, and the trees and wildlife was 2/3. And it was not just because categorization, but again, trees is a big, again, it seems lower in this one, but we have a very aggressive, proactive vegetation management program. We didn't always have that, but it's helped on these reliability numbers.
And I second the use of a arborist to do it. It's nice when the crew comes through and you can see the tree cleanly cut rather than roughly cut. I let the guys do what they do and let the tree guy do what the tree guy does.
Remember, the responsibility of that crew is maintenance.
Yeah.
But restoration, right?
Yeah.
And while we like trees like everybody else, lights
Yeah.
on is the
Yeah, and the tree guys know how to cut it so it
Exactly
doesn't look bad. So yeah, they went through Franklin Street, I think last fall, so cleaned up a lot of branches.
So you said, so they went through Franklin Street. You said you have a pretty robust proactive program. So you guys have drivers sort of just, they're driving around. How does that work? Are you spotting stuff or? Are you
part of
responding to
our
calls?
feeder patrol, we spot stuff. But we also have a GIS platform. They've got all the streets mapped. We're doing more and more layering in terms of the last time we did that particular area. And again, the guys in the field are eyes and ears to say, hey, look, this is a potential area. So a lot of data sources coming in. We're trying to make it more digital. And that's part of this new program that Peter will talk about a little bit at the end of June. But
so when you say GIS, is it actually satellite based?
no. So when I say that right now, we keep track on our GIS system, which roads we did, what portions of which roads we did, what streets,
It's
etc.
not satellite imaging to see.
No, not yet. No, we're not. We're going to explore. So we're starting to explore that, but from a terrestrial level, from vehicle that has proper cameras equipped. We have looked at other programs that are satellite and drone based, and they look at the type of, what type of tree it is based on the color and leaves, etc. We haven't subscribed to those programs, but we keep looking at those. Again, vegetation management is a critical issue for all electric utilities. And so, we're like in the big leagues, we're small. So we're trying to do it. So right now, when I talk about GIS, it's us keeping track of what we've done.
Yeah, and people are using drones also.
Yeah, drones is a big place as well. But we're not there yet.
I know like PG&E in California, they're trying to do all that.
Yeah, FPL has self-guided drones that go down the transmission systems. And then they come back and report back. Pretty cool stuff. But that's not us yet. Keep going, Mike.
Sounds like a fun job.
Starting Power is a dispatch for drone dispatch, a dispatch center.
Yeah.
So, this is the award we received last year, Diamond, for reliability.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Yeah, great work. I agree.
Just like I mentioned earlier, it's a team effort. Keep going on productivity. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, this is kind of a snapshot of some of the capital items. Installed 19 pad mount transformers, 38 pole mount transformers, removed 14 pad mount transformers and 37 pole mounts. Poles year to date, installed 55 poles and 10 fiberglass streetlight poles. Also spry point. So we're updating the spry point, and it's supposed to be roughly completed by sometime in June to a newer version. That'll help us enhance our work management system, including work orders, job tracking, create some reports so we can get some more KPIs. And then also the stock, we're looking to help coordinate the stock ahead of time for jobs, help expedite the morning crew departure. Because a lot of
By stock, you mean trucks? Is that primarily?
Oh, no, yeah, the stuff they put on the trucks to take out to a job site.
Transformers, wires, equipment, tap
So
wires.
so it's equipment that's put into the trucks.
No, being brought out to like a transformer hanging on a pole, trying to pull the transformer out ahead of time so it's ready to go in the morning.
Yeah, it's the stuff that you would load onto the truck.
No, because I remember in the past when we've had some approvals for certain trucks, I think it was listed as stock, so I was confused.
Yes, yeah. So that you're correct, Vivek. So we have a variety of trucks in our fleet. Some of the trucks are stock related that are basically taking equipment out to the field. Again, our intention is to let linemen stay on the job and stay in the field and focus on, as opposed to coming back to some location to pick up additional stock. So we can have the stock guys actually deliver those. And the stock we're talking about, transformers, wire, pieces of equipment.
Okay.
They do the poles because the stock guys aren't really set up to do that. But that's part of the reason why Mike brought it up here is, again, we're focused on efficiency and productivity of our labor hours. And what he's really trying to get across here is that we're trying to anticipate what jobs are coming up tomorrow so that we can preset, pre-kit. Again, we're trying to make it more efficient than how we use our labor hours. That's what Mike's trying to get across. Stock's an example of it.
And SpryPoint is a software tool is it used by other MLPs also?
Yeah. It is, and I will talk in my section, but we're looking at, so we were one of the early adopters. We had a custom platform. They being SpryPoint, appreciated us being an early adopter. There's benefits of doing that, but they would like us to move to their standard version now. So that's what the process of doing, so that the support is easier, it's more current. That'll make us a little bit more efficient. Again, we're trying to make the tools easy, trying to equip the team with tools, including software tools, to make their time as efficient as possible. I will talk very briefly in my update about an enterprise-wide software platform, that we need to update, and it will have some of this capability as well. More integrated work order systems. Again, the whole goal there is about labor efficiency.
Paper.
So the next one, so the outage map, we use surveillance. So we're gonna be rolling that out to the customers. Megan's team with Melissa Jolly is gonna be promoting that for customers when they have an outage. So to go onto our website and then check out the outage map to check out their outage, like try to reduce some of the call volume that the control room gets. Hopefully get them the routine where they get, we have the outage populated on the map. They look at the map, they could see the outage in their area, and then they can click on it, and it'll give a rough estimated restoral time. Because we get it out right now, we get a big outage. I mean, they could get 150, 200 phone calls, and they're just constantly, and they're already, it's only usually one control room operator, and he's trying to, work with the crews and the engineer, get the switching done, or the police and fire calling because they have an update, they know what's going on. They're at a site where maybe a tree came down and pulled some wires down or broke a pole or something like that. So just a lot going on at once. So anything we can do to try to reduce some of that volume, then make it more customer friendly, so they can get updates on the outage as well. So we're rolling that out. I'm gonna try for I think July, is it, Megan?
July.
Yeah. Then AMI meters, I'll just skip that part because Nick has a slide, he's gonna talk about that. So this is overtime costs year to date, 2024 versus 2025. So planned overtime year to date this year is negative 110,000. That's planned work. Then unplanned, we're $58,926 dollars behind last year. And then total right now, planned and unplanned, we're $168,943 behind the total of last year.
How does this compare to budget for 2025? Sorry,
We're below budget.
below budget.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There was a request from the board to work aggressively on overtime, so.
Yeah, no,
Trying to report back that
that's great. I comparing to last year versus budget, just was curious and then what the different view what might be. Okay.
So, but this is year to date for 2025, is that right?
Yes.
compared to year to date,
Year to date, 2024 as
I
well.
see.
Yeah, it wasn't total.
I see, okay.
Yeah, not total.
it's apples to
2024.
apples.
Got it.
Yeah. Both trending, so it's the same trend timeline.
Mhm.
It's gonna be tough.
And then that's all I have. Then I'll think the next slide is next. So Nick has a slide about the AMI replacement program.
And I think I've met most people, but not everybody. So Nick DeLabor, I'm the general foreman of grid assets and communications. So I oversee substations and the metering departments. So Greg asked me to just come to the meeting tonight, give an update on the AMI replacement project. So we have completed a couple of the milestones. I think the last time I was here, we were just about at the end of the evaluation and doing some contract negotiations. So Tantalus has been selected as our vendor. We've been working with them for almost a couple months now. Setting up more of the backroom stuff, the server. We have some network equipment that we're trying to program and actually get installed. Some here at the office so we can do some testing when we get some of the meters in. So we are having weekly calls with them. And at some point during the summer, our project manager will actually be on site to do a lot of training with us in some of the programming. So the next milestones that we have coming up during the summer is the vendor selection for the installer for the bulk of the residential meters, and also the phase 1 deployment, which will be done by RMLD employees. So about 600 meters we will deploy ourselves towards the end of the summer. And we will do a lot of testing in the office first before they go out in the field. So we want to make sure everything's working the way we anticipate them to work. before we start going changing meters at people's houses, so. That's sort of what I have, everything, is on schedule. We're hoping to, start the beginning of next year. I think we might even hopefully be able to start a little sooner than that. I'm hoping by the end of this year that we can start the full phase 2 deployment. So things are progressing. Things are going well, we are in early stages of, integration talks between EMI system, MDM system, billing system. So we are working with all those vendors to get all the integration for the meter reads to be able to be transferred for billing and all those types of things.
Have you been working with the marketing team at all, just on what does the customer communication plan look like for this?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've been talking about that, and we will be rolling something out.
Yeah, so because the first phase is just piloting, especially in-house pilotings, we're not doing much, but we're preparing to educate the customers about AMI meters. I used to work at the state. There's always a group of people who are against AMI meters, and there's some misinformation, and also it's just a matter of opinion. So we're trying to educate better, and also, like Greg always said, it's a replacement. It's not new meters, because we already have AMI meters for part of the territory. So we're trying to work out the sort of the messaging and the educational part of it. But again, I would say still the customer would still have a choice to some extent.
So Nick, question for you.
Yeah.
Currently, there's two types of meters, right? You have regular meters, and then you have time of use meters today, right? You have in the field, you have time of use meters.
Well, we currently have 2 metering systems. We have what they call an AMR system, which is an Itron system, and we have an AMI, which is a Cooper-Eaton system. So they're 2 different systems, 2 different platforms.
So the time of use meters that are involved, that are deployed today, are not the AMR.
The time of use tend to be the AMI systems, the smaller system that Nick just mentioned.
We actually have both.
Okay. Because I'm sure you have a time of use. You have a time of use.
Yeah, we have,
time of use.
Reading Lights had time of use for 25 years, maybe even more.
So those are AMI, those are the current AMI, or they're different AMI?
It's both. It's both. We
What's the
have,
question behind the question?
yeah,
So my
we have,
question is, like, you're gonna roll out AMI, and you currently.
We're not rolling out AMI. We are replacing an AMI system. So this messaging is going to be very important, right? This is a typical life of the system is roughly 15 years. And so we're at 13 years, we're coming up at the end of our systems. And so we are doing we are replacing a system because it's end of life. And also, as part of doing that, we are taking, as Nick mentioned, the 2 systems that we're running and making it now one system.
So if you deployed the time of use meter 3 months ago, what kind of system?
Go ahead.
yeah, so presently now with the AMR system, if you want a time of use meter, we need to come out and change your meter. Much more expensive than the meter that's in your house now. When we go to the meter replacement, if you want to go to time of use, we will program your meter from the office to change it to time of use. It's the same meter. We will just.
But you've already done that, right? I mean, you've already done that.
We
have time of use.
Well, we cannot do it with the AMR system today, which is 96% of our meters that are deployed in the field. So if you want time of use, meter technician needs to program a meter, go out to your house, knock on your door, take an outage, pull your old meter out, put a new meter in.
How much more expensive are those?
From the time we bought them to today's cost, 10 times.
But I mean, an AMR versus an AMI meter.
I'd have to look at the prices. the AMI meter that we're buying today is actually cheaper than the meter that we're buying for an Itron time of use.
Interesting. So I know I get charged $2 a month for my time use meter. I don't know how long that would last for.
How many times you only paid for? it
Oh, no, I
once.
remember there was a $2 monthly add-on. It was like 8 years ago or something, 10 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe longer.
So this new meter system will cover the entire territory. So you'll have a blanket homogenized system across the entire territory. You'll be able to track that. You can do a lot. Maybe you already do a lot with understanding load profiles of various customers and all that kind of stuff. Could you talk just a little bit about how the demand side management program interacts with the battery capacity that you talked about earlier in terms of sort of, peak reduction and power requirements at those July peaks or whatever? I guess I'm just kind of curious how the AMI data is going to inform the conversation for peak reduction and, power purchases, capacity needs, all that stuff.
Well, so it's gonna be stacked, right? The storage we just put in service is at the substation level. It's for the entire substation load. And then the AMI meters or the individual customers' demand response is at the very end of the system. So when they reduce load, they also contribute to the load reduction. So they're not in conflict, if that was your question.
Yeah, no, it's more a complementary thing and wondering, sort of how the prices, for example, that we pay for the PPA might be influenced by their own demand response. So if, for example, if you have demand response that's coming in from the end of your feeder lines, that means you don't need all of that extra capacity from a battery, for example. In terms of the load reduction overall from the battery. So I guess I just wondered how.
Yeah, so current configuration of our battery systems are at a utility scale. And the current focus of the battery systems is to focus on capacity and transmission cost. And those capacity and transmission costs are calculated by the actual meter read during the peak hour at our tie point to the transmission system. And so those systems, when we run those systems independent of our internal, we want to have as much internal demand response as we possibly can. But the battery systems, regardless of where in the system the demand response is, those battery systems we want to operate at maximum output during that peak hour.
So you reduce your intake from the transmission.
That's the key metric.
Yeah,
not first. In total, like the cost. So where you're going, which is a good question. Ultimately, over time, we can rethink if we learn how to manage the load within our network, then we can rethink the size of our distribution network. But the capacity and transmission cost, which is literally 40% of our cost structure, that is managed by what is the read at. Now we have 2 tie points, but any other MLP has 1 tie point. We're different, so it's and they might be different hours. But it's that time, what's the peak hour? What's our load at that peak hour? And we're going to drain our battery and whatever else we can, and run our generator and whatever else we can do to minimize that load during that peak hour. The metric is at the type line. What's the meter say? Nothing to do with this internal system. You follow?
Well, yeah, but I guess if your demand shrinks on the internal system, then you don't need to pull as much power from the transmission.
Agreed.
That's what we're doing.
So that's a demand management program, but the batteries is in addition to that.
Yeah.
And the metric and the measurement is purely on the 2 types. That meter read is the critical one. You go ahead.
And also the reduction is not to zero out demand.
Right. Yeah, sure.
The reduction at the customer level and the reduction at substation, they're added together. They're not, contradicting.
Yeah, I guess I was just curious, and sorry for the diversion, everybody, but I was just curious if demand is reduced in the system, then it seems like there would be some play in terms of how much of the battery, sort of disbursement you would need over time, but you've already entered into an agreement.
So in terms of economy of scale,
Mhm.
you still want to discharge the battery first.
Okay.
And then
Independent.
Yeah, independent of what customer would do. We cannot control what customer would do. So.
It's.
Yeah, yeah, I
on the
see.
scale of it.
Yeah.
I dispersed 10 megawatt hour with one hour. That 10 megawatt will take how many customers to actually get to 10? We never get to. 10
There's a
megawatt.
dynamic.
So it's
there's a
just because
dynamic
it's
that
so
the system
big.
will have to learn. There's a dynamic the system will have to learn, right? And about the behavior. So you know you're going to be you're anticipating a peak, and then you're putting in a demand response request. You're not actually is not active demand response, right? It's a passive response, active demand response.
So you guys you're getting into the right thought process, which is part of the things that we want to do with the AMI system, is to have more efficient demand response systems. But what I'm trying to say is that is separate from the battery system, and they are additive. We want both to be as powerful as they possibly can, because all the billing agent that charges for transmission cares about is what's the load. What you do on your side, how you reduce it is up to you. You know, if you want to be crazy, we would not do this. Right? We would not do this, but turn everybody off, right? And that's how you get to zero. We would never do that. But the point is to get it as low as possible. So all of these programs are additive. The AMI program is distinct and separate from the battery system. They both are additive in that they affect that load, but they're currently not tied together, and we don't anticipate them being tied together. There is some thought process, and this is some of the discussion that Vivek and some of the introductions he's made of smaller scale battery systems, not necessarily at homes, but spread throughout our network, that we might start thinking about
Certain feeder lines or something.
exactly right. So that's where some of this data is going to become very important in terms of loading. Now we have data on loading, but this becomes more real-time loading, and then you can get into back to the learning thing that Vivek's talking about, which is how do I now adapt to that? But that's a little bit down the road. Right now, we're just getting the platform in place. And this, again, it's a replacement program. Keyword, replacement program.
So as we work to get towards the phase 2, I think you said launch, can we have either you come back in a couple months or the marketing team come back and just say, hey, here's our communication plan, here's how we think about it. Okay. Great.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Okay. Policy review, communications and community engagement. Speaking of the topic.
Perfect. So we actually had talked about this at a previous meeting. The change is fairly simple. What the request was, there we go, was to keep in the policy the section 6, which is the community relations programs. So we put that back. We had removed it just for simplicity, but with input from the board, we actually added it back in. So this is actually a policy we looked at before. We basically included it back in. All the other changes are from the previous piece. And you can see, yeah. So Erica's got it highlighted here. This is the piece that we put back in. There's a summary across the front, but the summary really talks about what we talked about before. So the only change between last time we talked about this and this one was at your request, to put community relations program back in.
And just
Thank
remind
you,
me, we.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We appreciate what you do.
Absolutely.
We didn't vote on this last time, or are we
Because-
voting again because you made further changes?
You didn't vote last
We didn't
time.
vote.
You
Okay.
just wanted this added back in and then.
Right. Yep, okay.
Or a actual.
Do you want to?
Any comments on that?
No.
Fine with it?
Oh, good.
Good?
Yep.
All right, can we?
Make the motion. Right. Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board recommend that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve policy 1, community relations revision 6 as presented on the recommendation of the general manager.
Thank you. All in favor?
Sure. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve policy 1, community relations revision 6 as presented on the recommendation of the general manager and the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
The only thing I wonder, I know you already voted on it, is why we're adding the part about the community relations person working on the legislators and regulators. and partners and vendors as opposed to, you know, customers in the community. That's the only question I have about this, is this C under the first one.
It's not meant to be exclusive, it's meant to be more comprehensive, Dick.
I mean, it just seems to expand the scope a lot to add all of that. You know, it sounds like a lobbyist or somebody working with vendors. I mean, it's fine. I mean,
I think
I'll go for it.
the ribbon cutting is a good example of how that would play in.
the what?
The ribbon cutting that we did 2 weeks ago.
I see.
It's
Like a-
not the focus is with the customer. That's the primary
Yeah.
focus. But we didn't want to.
I see. So like press release and having people at a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, that's the concept. It's not meant to be a, yeah, we have
Going down to Beacon Hill every Thursday and
No. We don't have time for that.
hanging out in the lobby. I mean,
None of us have time for that.
okay. That was a good question.
Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, variance 4-0. All right, procurement requests.
Yep, so the first one was for 132 pole mounted transformers. So they selected 2 vendors and it was basically based off meeting the spec criteria that the engineer was looking for and also the lowest bidder. So it was for approval for Gray Bar Electric Company for $229,330.02 and United Utility Supply Company, EL Flowers and Associates for $263,907. So basically, the order was split between those 2 vendors. They were the lowest vendors and they met the spec.
In the materials, it says that the budget for these items was 1.372 million. That was the budget just for the
No, that's a
portion.
combination. So both these would add together for that.
Yeah, I think for transformers being installed this year and also for new transformers being ordered.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But no indication that that capital budget is not sufficient.
No, no.
We're trying, yeah. We ended up, this part, if you guys remember, well, some of you remember from a couple of years back, there was a supply chain, so we actually stocked a little bit higher, and now we're trying to work inventory down. We're actually purchasing these because these are high runners. So trying to, we're working hard to manage inventory for a whole bunch of reasons.
Mhm.
Partially space.
So are these to be installed or are these to go in your?
Well, they,
For future purchase.
Okay.
they will go into stock. So when we have either an outage or part of the replacement program. But again, we're buying less transformers right now than we have.
And just out of curiosity, how long does it take for delivery of these?
Yeah, they had estimates on these, so there were various sizes, so like so Gray By had for 25 kVA, 120, 240 was estimated 12 weeks.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically from 25
I
to
was
75 is
expecting
12 weeks.
18 months or
It was.
24
It
months or
used to be,
something.
It was, yeah. I mean, there was a
It
time.
was even longer than that. It was 4 years.
Yeah,
My-
right.
Yeah, and some of the larger ones for the second supplier, up to 28 weeks. And that's it. They definitely meet that deadline too.
Is this just the direct unit cost or the total ownership cost that you're awarding on? Do you do total ownership cost?
Yeah,
based
they
on
get
losses.
capitalized as they get purchased.
No, but
It-
you look at
it-
no load losses and load losses and calculate a rate on that, what the total ownership cost is.
So this, so we do some of those kind of calculations, but this is just what the purchase cost is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what goes onto the balance sheet. Yeah. It's not total. ownership.
You don't award on total ownership cost, you award on just unit cost.
Realizing that I probably should have had us read the motion first before we discuss, but any other discussion before I ask someone to read the motion?
Make the new guy read it.
I don't know.
I was afraid I was gonna have to read all of them for.
But make sure he knows how to read.
You guys can fight it out. Somebody read it.
I'll read it. Move that IFP 2025-09. Is this the right motion?
Yep.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
2025-09 for pole mounted transformers be awarded to Gray Bar Electric Company, Inc. for $229,330.02 and United Utility Supply, care of EL Flowers and Associates for $263,907 pursuant to MGL 16456D on the recommendation of the general manager.
Second.
Further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. And would you mind, Rich, going ahead and reading the next motion from the Pad Mountain Train?
Move that IFP 2025-10 for pad mounted transformers be awarded to Gray Bar Electric Company, Inc. for $369,370.22 pursuant to MGL C 16456D on the recommendation of the general manager.
Second. Okay, yeah, and I just side note, so obviously, these were a little long, different sizes, but, longer lead time, some up to 30 weeks. Different size pad mount transformers. And that was the lowest bidder as well, Great Bar.
And what are we looking at here on the next page that I have in my notes? It's that.
Yeah,
what
so,
else
yeah, all the
happened
various,
that? It's
yeah, there's
Good
numerous
idea.
bidders on it,
The comparison of
these are all the different bids.
Sure.
yes.
Okay.
who provides, so each category, who provided it.
Yep.
And then what the items were, and then the unit cost, and the extended cost, just so there's a comparison. It's primarily for.
Yep.
I mean, for your benefit too.
Yep.
I mean, this is the stuff that we look at.
Yep.
But it also needs to be part of the record. It's part of the 56D.
Yeah, and you see on the far right, the engineers reviewed the specs on those transformers, they approved them, and, that was the actually lowest bidder as well, so.
Any other questions? Ready for the vote?
Please.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay, green communities. Would you like to read the motion, Cab, first, and then we'll have the update?
Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board recommend that RMLD Board of Commissioners authorize RMLD General Manager to execute a revocable Renewable Energy Trust Fund membership agreement with Massachusetts Clean Energy Technology Center and the town of Reading.
Second.
All right, we'll wait for the discussion.
Oh, you want to do?
Then just, yeah, let's
You
do
join.
discussion so they can decide if they want to vote, and then we can do our motion.
Oh, okay. My discussion will be the same for both then. Okay. So this is basically a cleanup. We're finalizing paperwork. We've been talking about green communities. I didn't create any additional slides. We did a presentation, well, numerous presentations as recently as 2 months ago. The green community programs, we realized that we serve 4 towns and only the town of Reading currently is participating in. We have set up our billing system such that only the meters in Reading would be billed. It is 5 mils, which is 0.00005, which works out to be for an average customer 41 cents a month for Reading. The town of Reading, as we've talked about before, our responsibility is purely to be the billing administration agent. So we collect it and we send it off to the Renewable Energy Trust. It is irrevocable. And so if the town of Reading program decides to exit the program, they have the responsibility to pay whatever exit costs, which could be $1 million. So the agreement is between the town of Reading, Mass Clean Energy Technology Center, and RMLD. 98% of the communities have already participated in this program in Massachusetts. I thought we already had a formal vote. I need a formal vote to execute the agreement. So that's the background behind it. That's the context. Any questions?
Do you guys have any more questions?
I just have a question. So is the trust sits in Reading? Sits with the town of Reading?
No. The trust of the state. It's a Commonwealth trust.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they manage. This is managed at a state level.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Mass Clean Energy Tech.
Just
So
so you know,
what's the town, what's the, and the town of Reading has just become a part of that
Correct.
trust.
Yes.
And
They've been around
that's
for
the
4
only
years.
town in the territory that.
Correct.
has. All right.
and there's more details to it. But again, RMLD's role is real simple in this one. We are simply a pass through.
Right.
We collect and we forward. And we do that pretty well.
But the town has already voted to become a part and parcel with that
Correct.
fund. Okay.
Past open meeting.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's been going on for 4 years, so it's official.
okay.
And our intention is to actually execute starting July 1st. That'll be another part of the communication piece.
A holdup was actually an administrative thing at the state level
Correct.
to allow
Our
The
situation-
municipals
Well,
to
our-
collect,
RMLD specifically.
yeah,
okay, to collect the
because
funds.
we have, right. And it was just waiting for administrative action. So, yeah,
Okay.
it's like everyone's been waiting for this to happen and now they're ready to do it and we'll say, find one.
Do you see interest from any other towns?
In fact, yes, Linfield is exploring, specifically. I don't think, not North Reading. Wilmington is kind of interested as well, but there'll be a anomaly as well, given. Again, we have anomalies all over the place, but we would take the responsibility to bill it, if Wilmington joined. But the reality is, well, I'll leave it at that.
No, so if they plan, if Reading.
Each town is different, and so
So
yeah,
you need a similar motion for that because this is.
this is just Reading.
This is just Reading, so
Yes.
you would need a separate motion
Correct.
That
for
was,
Linfield and.
that was the legislation they've been waiting on, because in the past, for the light plant to collect, they had all the communities that it served had to agree to it. So the other three communities weren't agreeing, so they had to get special legislation for
To allow
the,
just Reading to
to
participate
allow
as
the
its
one
own town.
town each as it decides to do it. So that was the legislation that just got passed, I guess.
Last year, but then,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Any other discussion on this?
All right, you guys all good?
They're good.
Yeah, go ahead and vote.
All right, so now
Yes.
all in favor? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Someone want to read the motion?
Move that move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners, on the recommendation of the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board, authorize the RMLD General Manager to execute the irrevocable Renewable Energy Trust Fund membership agreement with the Massachusetts Clean Energy Technology Center and the town of Reading.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
1-0, thank you.
Great.
Okay, NEPA conference approval, you wanna read the motion?
Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board approve for all board members that are interested in attending travel to and attendance at the Northeast Public Power Association NEPA Annual Conference to take place August 17th to the 20th, 2025 at the Hotel Champlain in Burlington, Vermont.
All in favor?
Aye.
Planning.
Sure, yeah, I think they got flipped around here, right? But
Yeah,
okay.
I guess it doesn't matter, but
Okay, move that the Board of Commissioners approve for all commissioners that are interested in attending, travel to and attendance at the NEPA conference to take place August 17 to 2025 at the Hotel Champlain in Burlington.
Second.
just one question of what's our budget for this?
Okay.
Okay.
The same. For each board,
Each board.
15 each.
that's
okay.
your total budget.
It's there, it's there.
Okay. And that would cover full board attendance if that was it, and full cab attendance.
15%, 15 for you guys.
Yeah, we have our own budgets.
Yes, Dan, to answer your question, it would come.
Okay.
Easy.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks.
GM update.
Great. Good. So couple quick updates, standard format, team members, some recent hires in pipeline, a new marketing communications coordinator. Offer was extended,
Yes, starting June 16th.
starting June 16th. So again, put horsepower behind the communications. We actually have 4 interns being part of the summer 2025 program. One in accounting, one in customer service, one in operations, and one in marketing communications. In the past, they've been, we kind of learned how to make the program work within the IRD group. So now we've branched out from that. Obviously, we posted a couple of positions, including the finance and accounting director and the energy program specialist. As you guys just noted, that picture to the right, this was a ribbon cutting to River Park Energy Storage 2 weeks ago. Very well attended. We had both partners. We had members from the legislative. There are several individuals there, our local House and Senate representatives. A lot of good support there. The VEC happened to attend, which was great. We had members from North Reading, as well as Karen from Reading. So it was a good program. There's a lot of support and follow-up. It served the purpose that we had, which is to continue to promote RMLD as again, active, innovative, doing stuff on behalf of our customers. very bottom there is just the long-term energy storage. I sent you guys a copy of the presentation. Jason had arranged this for the rodeo or the E&O conference. So we actually presented at that, got some good feedback, good discussions. And in parallel with that long-term energy storage, we continue, one of the goals is to get a long-term energy program in place in 2025, but it's dependent heavily on grant funding, which is up in the air right now, lack of a better word. Yeah, go ahead.
What happened with Benjamin?
He's no longer part of the organization.
When was the last day?
May 1st.
May 1st. Okay.
My apologies.
No, I didn't know. Maybe you guys knew, but I didn't.
Yeah,
know.
I communicated with the board. Yeah, my apologies. Right. Can you advance me here?
Yes. Hold on.
So again, customer communications. So last week we had, we're getting back into our webinar programs. So there, we hosted a heat pump program. Again, that's one of the key emphasis. Abode, as we talked about before, again, we've learned how to work well with our partners. They provided a lot of the technical presentation. It was 54 participants, another 54 since then. It's again, 1 week have viewed the recording. Lots of good questions. Anybody, anything else you want to mention on that? Yeah.
We actually had 170 registered.
Registered,
so
yeah.
let's turn off.
Yeah, so again, good topic, and this is, again, emphasis on the communications piece, which is part of the reason why we're staffing the communications piece. Next slide. Yeah, we're good. So a couple of initiatives here, but on the left picture, and this will happen again tonight. So this was a Tuesday night, was one of the 2 Station 6 transformers moving through the town of Reading to its final resting place in Wilmington. It's on Ballardvale Avenue. So that's a pretty sizable one. Tonight at roughly 9:30, I think. Okay, Nick. The second one will be going through the same place. It'll be placed on the foundation. So again, Nick's deeply involved in the project, but Peter Price on the engineering side, he'll give an update next month. But that project is in motion. It's going to go in. It's been a lot of planning. It's a big project for us. But it's another substation. So Richard will be a 3rd type point. Again, another unique element of us. But that's in process. I'll kind of top, Ray already mentioned the Killam and Reading Senior Living Program in terms of the electrification and solar. Megan and I have actually, we're going to actually, I think I mentioned this to you guys individually, but we're going to go back and try and get, although the economics aren't overly powerful, we think it's just good PR from the town of Reading. There seems to be interest to put that solar program, a small solar system on top of the Parker School. It's not a foregone conclusion, but we're going to resurrect that one. We looked at it last year. We were all kind of lukewarm on it, but we think it's worth looking at in more detail. Ash Street campus, the initial campus concepts are basically complete at this point in time. As I've updated with you guys in the last executive session, we have a discussion going on with acquisition of property right around us. We're also looking at broader options depending upon the value of the property. So I have some new data as of today relative to some initial estimates in terms of valuations, et cetera, but that continues to move forward. And again, the reason for the Ash Street campus is our building 218, which is the operations center. It's on the north side of our Station 1. It is at end of life. And so we've outgrown it and hasn't maintained it as well as we probably could have. But anyways, we need to replace that building. And the intention, again, going back for the past 2 years, is to get that done by the end of this decade, which is not that far down the road. So making good progress on Ash Street. What happens, those concepts are dependent upon what property footprint we ultimately have. There'll be more updates, but just to let you know that continues to move forward. The other element on Chestnut Street, Station 3, I brought you guys up to speed in terms of some discussions with the town of North Reading relative to some interest in terms of working with some property they have. You've got some momentum on that. I'll provide more details on that. The last element is the enterprise software platform replacement project. We talked very briefly about this a few minutes ago relative to SpryPoint. But there are some parts of our software platform, Nick mentioned, and you've heard from Megan, but they've just mentioned a couple of the different systems. We have lots of software systems. They have to interact with each other. They have to be maintained. One of the key systems is nearing end of support in a couple of years. So we need to basically, not if, it will come out of support. And so we will need to move to a different platform. So it's basically prompting us to look at our whole enterprise software platform. That is in the,
Are you primarily like a Microsoft shop or
we are
at a high level?
primarily is, so we're not primarily where Microsoft has offerings. Yes, we are Microsoft, but there are other elements where Microsoft doesn't have an offering. So we'll walk you through in July. We'll walk you through the broader platform, and we'll probably do that in executive
Because I
session.
think like Oracle has some offerings also, like, it's like.
Oracle has some offerings that would fit into the replacement program. That's correct. Yeah, but it's not, again, we are at a point where we are replacing some key systems. That one we probably wanted to wait a couple of years further down the road, but the fact that the support is going away means we need to take action now. The good news, we have the ability to do it if it's our existing budget, etc. But it's a resource and a time planning element. So I just alerted you guys to the element. We're going to get more deep into that project very quickly. This is 2020. So we received this in March. Going back to reliability, this is good PR for us, and it's good. It goes back to what the linemen were mentioning earlier. It's not just the linemen, though; it's the whole company that makes our reliability where it is. And as Mike had walked you through earlier, we are very good in that category. This is the 5th year we've received this award. So they've now said we basically significantly exceeded a 5-year average of all U.S. electric utilities. So this is a good thing to have. And it's in addition to, what Mike mentioned earlier, that Diamond Award. Last comment, Pam, I did go through and change some of the colors earlier, but again, we'll do this each month. End of May, so the blue are the completed ones. The greens are in process that are actively moving. I used gray for pause, that with the yellow ones before. Pause, when I say pause, this, they're queued up and ready to go, but we're not taking action on them quite yet. Or we've stopped them in the case of the some of the ones down there, the power supply piece. But anyways, we'll just keep you updated in terms of progress on these. Our goal is to get them all done as committed in the individual quarterly schedules and also by the end of the year. That's a quick update. Any questions?
I have one quick one on the enterprise platform.
Yes, sir.
Is there some, I guess if we're going to discuss it at a future meeting, it'd be nice to be able to do some background reading on the, sort of how the softwares integrate, what's the, I guess how everything integrates, and just do a little bit of learning. Is there something to read on that? Is there
So we have some documents in terms of how all of our disparate systems connect. And disparate's probably the right word. We want to be they're integrated. Unlike when we had put pieces like our billing system, we installed back in 2004. At that point in time, it was state of the art. It no longer is. There are different versions of that now. We'll try and assemble some reading materials. We've got some materials, but they aren't. Well, yes, we
sort of uniform or whatever. Yeah, I think it'd be helpful.
Yeah.
If we could.
So Greg, about this, like, it's something that we've questioned in the past. Maybe we need another executive session around software, primarily before we have the budget session, because before we have the budget session, as you're looking at different software, how is it integrating from a cybersecurity perspective also, because that's really important.
Critically important. So in Vivek, yes. And so what I did do, we sat down with Pam last month and kind of walked through, here are the key agenda items now through the end of the year. So in July is that session, again, responding to your request to have that done before the budget discussion. And some of it we can do in public session, but the majority of the software stuff, key pieces of the software stuff we want to do in private session, or the exact thing that you mentioned in terms of not displaying too many of our cards. So yes, so the answer to your question, it'll be a July event. It's scheduled that way.
Thank you.
And we'll have material ahead of time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So I have one question, and probably should have done it earlier, but I was just going back to the budget and how much that we're setting out for everybody, all the employees and time. Do you have a metric for how much money you get back for car versus poles or something that's an outside that's billable from running light coming back in? So that would that drop down your overtime budget with the numbers that you see? So because you're getting that money back. So
What was that word
you're saying?
What was the word you said?
Car versus poles. When somebody hits the pole.
Oh, car versus pole. Got it. Okay. I get that.
The answer to your question, Charlie.
Which kind of brought me to this whole, how I ended up on the.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. It's the exact question. And pole hits, car versus pole, we call them pole hits.
Okay.
But yeah, pole hits, HITS, just the rest of you guys, pole hits. Car runs into a pole, that breaks it. And it happens more often than you might think. It's a small number. Yes, it would reduce the overtime. We get reimbursed for overtime charges, but it's rounding error in terms of the magnitude of that reimbursement. In the big picture, our long-term goal is to own all the poles in our network. Economically, it's advantageous to us. We have shared ownership with Verizon. There will be a point in time in 2, maybe 3 years where they will be open again to the idea of an MLP like us buying them out. And there's a whole, anyways, there's a lot to that. Right now, the billing, the contracts, the value of the billing is relatively low in terms of what we get reimbursed. Depends upon who it is, but the share stuff with Verizon, not. If we get a claim through the insurance company, then that's real money. But again, there's not that many of them in our territory.
Right. So you go through Verizon, you don't get the car owner's information and build their insurance directly. You go.
We do that where we can.
Okay.
Yeah. And again,
if it's a Verizon on pole, you have to go through them.
Exactly right. So it's there's about 8. So just big picture, just for your background, because there are roughly 18,000 poles in the network. 6,000. So we have joint ownership of all of them. Roughly 12,000 are maintained by Verizon and 6,000 roughly by us, RMLD. And there's a lot more to it. There's other elements where they can't set anything over 55 feet if we're doing more 55s. And I mean, there's all sorts of.
Right. Yeah.
The question's very good. Your points are appropriate. And it's good in terms of thinking about the overtime number.
I saw the numbers. I didn't see anything where we had money coming back.
Well, if we do. So the other element, in fact, we will have. So we're scheduling a job. I can't remember, Mike, it's either this weekend or next weekend, but we're scheduling some jobs that are reimbursable, specifically on overtime because they're reimbursable jobs. So that will reduce it, but they're not big.
Not exorbitant.
It's not exorbitant. Where we can, we do. Yeah. And that's been no practice for decades.
Right.
Good question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not specifically about your presentation, but just if it's okay, I had a couple of thoughts for requests for maybe for the next meeting of topics. Maybe we could. One is, and going back to your Greg on the site planning, which is great. Wondering if we might hear from. I saw him at town meeting, the town planning director. This whole area, as we all know, not just our site, but the whole industrial area is like the biggest economic development opportunity in the town in 100 years, and making that successful and how we fit into that is really important. So I think hearing from the town planning director would be great, and I know he'd be open to it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's also good for not just the town but load growth because there's a lot of development content. A lot of this land is underutilized back here. Not just this site, but everything. I don't know if you've ever been to the supermarkets over there and those derelict old.
Yeah.
Not just these warehouses, but on the other side of the tracks. So it's all part of a big planning process in the town. And if it's done right, it'll be a big load growth also for the utility. So anyway, just thought the concept is that's great. Have Andrew in to kind of see how this fits in with that.
I guess only Market Basket survived it, and everyone else is struggling. Right?
And stuff.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea because part of the conceptual stuff we've done
it's jointly with them, right?
Yeah, with them, yeah.
Right.
So in fact, what he and I were talking about is doing a joint presentation, him here and us there, because it's again, what's come out of it ultimately is that they're basically saying you've got this little quirky little triangle is gonna be RMLD space and whatever happens to the land behind it.
The center there.
But they're gonna focus on the other side of the tracks. But exactly right. We wanna, because we've done work together, I think it's helpful for both parties.
Yeah, they do fit together in various ways.
Oh, yeah, no, but also the presentation piece.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one.
Good, so that's one, yeah, what's else?
So the other one was just something that's just came up in the news. Just to flag briefly, it was up 4 years ago. You may recall where we did a policy where we're not gonna buy wood burning power or do the RECs. This is what that plant out in Springfield.
Yeah.
That it's back, and it's coming, the
How much back?
developer. Well, yeah, he won a building permit reversal in a state court, I think, and there's another legislative move or a regulatory move on Beacon Hill that would allow light plants to again take carbon credits for a plant that burns non-carbon credits for a power plant that burns 1,200 tons of wood every day. And our board was part of kind of opposing this 4 years ago. So was the select board, and it's kind of back, and seems like it's maybe an opportunity for us to be engaged. Speaking of
Engaged.
well, in the same sense that where there was a letter that you were going to have us sign, like opining on regulation. So in that same spirit, that our board, as policy setting body for one of the largest MLPs, might also want to educate itself on this and make its voice heard. So the issue isn't whether there's a fossil plant or a plant that emits carbon, but whether a plant that burns 1,200 tons of wood every day should be regarded as non-carbon and get the non-carbon credits. That's the issue. And that's what enables its finances. And frankly, the arguments that that's non-carbon are fairly pseudoscientific. And, so anyway, just thought maybe this is something we could talk about at the next meeting, kind of learn about. Also, we're a co-owner of Energy New England, correct? Like as co-op.
Yeah, partial.
They're the ones who brokered all those power contracts
4 years.
5 years ago, correct? And then they all got
6 years,
voided when the permit got yanked. So are they gonna now, are we hearing anything about, are they gonna now be the ones brokering? If this guy is back in business, are they gonna do it again? Are they gonna be the brokers for these, try to sell it again to MLPs?
This is news to me, but
Yeah.
I don't think any of the MLPs are gonna get in the middle of that mess, but
Okay, that's
I
good.
mean, I'm,
You would know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good to hear, I don't, because it's,
I think we specifically have it in our policy now.
we do, yeah.
I specifically do,
That's to you.
policy of 30.
We have-
Well, it's not me, it's everybody,
Yeah, no, but you.
I was involved, yeah.
You drove that.
30,
So, yeah, and you were there at the beginning of that.
yeah. Oh,
That's-
tail end.
Yeah, the tail end of it. So, yeah, it's like,
Turned out well for us, but
I think so. What was I just gonna say?
So what would the,
What would the
are you
action
looking
be?
for that mechanism?
Well, I think first of all, there is a bill that would not allow MLPs to take non-carbon credits. Like, I guess there's something in the law, or that's going to be in the law, where as of January, MLPs can claim the non-carbon if they buy power from a wood burning power plant. And that would be the thing, is are we in favor of that kind of loophole of non-carbon? Because
So from our perspective, we already have a policy that says we will not buy.
we do.
But your point is, should we have a more formal statement around
Yeah.
whether that legislation should go?
Exactly, because it is legislation, as I understand it. I only got this in the last 2 days, is that the regulatory change would allow MLPs to claim the non-carbon for
and
buying.
IOUs are just MLPs.
I
I-
think, and again, that's why
There's more research to be
there's
done.
more, but I believe it's to allow us to claim it, and then, so we'd be the beneficiaries, right?
If we participate.
If we did, but we are the biggest MLP.
Yeah.
So if
This
this is
is more of a policy, political statement.
Correct.
Because our policy already says. we
correct,
want that.
internally, if we stuck to the policy and us or a future board didn't change the policy.
Yeah.
Won't buy.
We wouldn't participate.
Right, correct, if we stuck to it, but we could always change that, right? But also, do we want to make our voices heard on important policy matters involving carbon emissions, and how the state and how developers try to change regulations to allow wood burning power to claim non-carbon? And in my opinion, that is part of our job. And to your point, Ray, about, light boards, what are we here for? We set policy, right? So.
Well, and I'm not disagreeing in anything you're saying in terms of what we would do here as a board, but I think this is a good discussion for the MLCA.
Correct.
Which is across
Just start-
across all light boards, because while certainly we can have a point of view, and Wakefield has commented on things like clean heat standard.
Right.
You know, they've made their position vocal on that point. It would be appropriate forum to educate commissioners on what the policy is, what it's doing, what it's not, and then allow that educated commissioner to go back to their light departments and make a decision that's appropriate for their community.
Right.
So if we want to have an impact on the community of municipal light companies, then the MLCA might be
Great.
a very good place to have that
Sure.
discussion, because we would be talking to other
The way to
other things.
educate the other board.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing at all if we feel that that's something we want to comment on. But to Pam's point, it's probably moot for us if we already have a policy saying that
Maybe it
we
is, yeah.
wouldn't take it, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have a discussion on it
Yeah.
or reaffirm that policy or
But you're
whatever.
suggesting that as the Board of Commissioners for RMLD specifically, we can have something to say to the broader state policy and
we can comment on the state
above,
policy at this point.
above just the municipal
Right. I
So-
think so.
community.
So what do we, how about if we do this? So maybe Greg and team, you have an action just to kind of dig a
Do a
little
little
bit
research, yeah,
into-
we'll find out.
into what the existing situation is. Since you are kind of our primary liaison to the MLCA, which you connect with,
Vice Chair.
you are, so we have the right.
Congratulations.
You proposed this as a topic.
You're the chair of the embassy.
Vice Chair.
Do that.
Yeah, Jean-Jacques is chair.
You could propose it as a topic
Mm-hmm.
and see if we can get it on the agenda. That would be great.
Would be appropriate target for that.
And I think, yeah, at the moment, we have no motion towards changing our policy, so.
Right, and again, I'm not, so wait,
So,
can I
so
stop?
the,
Was,
yep, sure.
was your point that because we won't buy this power that we, in your opinion, we don't have?
My point is, I'm just making a statement that we're not changing the policy.
Right.
The RMLD leadership team will look into this a little bit more, and if we can
Little
have a report at our next meeting on what do we find out, what's actually happening here. You know, if we need to use our policy, the community engagement, to engage with our legislators to make our opinion.
And I
It's
affirm
something
that
that we
I'll
can
bring
do
this up to leadership at MLCA.
Great, and as part of that, I wonder if you could ask Energy New England whether they would intend to, because we co-own them we're a cooperative owner of them. And they were the prime actors creating the contract and parceling it out to the, well, update.
So I will ask what they.
Are they
I-
intending to
I-
be involved again?
Yeah, I will confirm, I highly doubt it, but I will confirm yeah, they were, as they do, they were looking back 5 years ago, again, for my time when they put it all together. They were, they look at power supply opportunities for
And
MLPs and.
not
whoever's
criticizing
concerned.
what they did then, just wondering in lessons learned and.
I will,
everything
as
that's
part
happened
of,
since
we'll
then.
do some research, I will check, I'd be highly surprised, but I will find out for real,
Thank you.
so. And report back. Great.
Great, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
Okay, so scheduling. Looks like we have our next 3 meetings set in July, August.
And I want to affirm that none of those dates conflict with the potential MCLA meeting dates.
Sweet.
June 25th, MLCA is going to be the 26th, though. And then I don't think we're going to meet in July, and August will be at NEPA, so no conflict with the August date. So I think as far as MLCA meetings, no conflict.
And we have warrants.
Eric, I will send you the list of MLCA dates just so that you can block out those times. But I don't think it's, you know, they don't conflict right now, but you could just,
And what I'll do is I'll put from the bottom of the agendas, like upcoming.
oh, perfect. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I think we can move towards adjournment.
Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board adjourn regular session.
All in favor, roll call would require.
Yes.
Vivek Sonia, aye.
Jason Small, aye.
Sure. Move that the Board of Commissioners adjourn regular session.
Second. Report.
Swanson, aye.
Like I say. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.